Aaron Hernandez. He's the NFL star who took his own life in prison while serving a life sentence for murder. And for the first time, Hernandez's suicide notes have been made public in a book by his defense attorney, Jose Baez. It is called Unnecessary Roughness Inside the Trial and Final Days of Aaron Hernandez. And TJ Holmes is here with Hernandez's story. Good morning.
Okay, and all we have to remember, this guy was catching passes from a guy named Tebow in college and winning national championships, catching passes from a guy named Brady as a pro, and went to a Super Bowl, but then arrested for murder at 23, life in prison at 25, dead by suicide at 27. And now with these suicide notes, we're getting some insight into what was going on with him in his own words. Beginning in 2010, Aaron Hernandez was a star tight end for the New England Patriots. He helped lead the team to the Super Bowl and signed a $40 million contract. But by 2015,
guilty of murder in the first degree.
He'd gone from player to prisoner, sentenced to life in prison for orchestrating the murder of acquaintance and semi-pro football player Odin Lloyd. 2 years later, Hernandez was on trial again for a double murder, but was acquitted.
Not guilty.
Just days later, the former football star was found hanging in his cell. This morning, his defense attorney, Jose Baez, best known for successfully defending Casey Anthony, shares his unique insight in his book dubbed Unnecessary Roughness Inside the Trial and Final Days of Aaron Hernandez, for the first time revealing the letters Hernandez wrote in the last hours of his life. The writings at times upbeat, but at other times seemingly clear that he intended to take his life. In one letter to Baez, Hernandez calls him his brother, even speaks about grabbing a drink together. But then, within hours, his tone shifts dramatically. He writes to his daughter, "I'm entering to the timeless realm," and in a note to family he pens in bold letters, "Not much time, I'm being called." And after his death, doctors were able to study Aaron Hernandez's brain. They said it is the most severe case of CTE they have ever seen in a person that young. Aaron Hernandez's fiance did go ahead and sue the Patriots over his CTE diagnosis. Paul.
Yeah, stage 3 CTE. Thanks so much, TJ. And Aaron Hernandez's former defense attorney, Jose Baez, joins us now. Jose, thanks for joining us. And so we know that Aaron Hernandez took his own life in prison. But as TJ just said, upon his death, he was found to have stage 3 chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Do you question whether he took his own life? What do you think CTE had to do with him taking his own life?
Well, I think based on the research, everything that's out there, and I pretty much lay it out in the book, how there is a direct link between suicide and CTE. There's a silent killer in the NFL, and that is CTE. And many players don't know that they're walking around each day with it and continuing to play this game.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only way to really diagnose it is posthumously. But you still believe that Aaron Hernandez was innocent of murder. But
Me too.
Some of the symptoms of CTE that you mentioned, aggression and poor decision making, could cause him to take his own life. Why don't you think those same symptoms could cause him to take someone else's life?
Because I base my opinion on the evidence. I represented him in the double murder case.
Doctor, I'm with you. I believe that
saw him
too.
Someplace else at the time of the murder, and 3 witnesses who were completely independent of him identified someone with long hair and cornrows. And as you can see, that doesn't look anything like Aaron. The main witness that the state used against him was a drug kingpin with a very violent past who was cutting a deal for himself. And these details get lost in the headlines. And that's why I think this book is a bit different, because it shows a completely different, it looks at Aaron from a completely different perspective.
Let's talk about the little book a bit, because we see for the first time these letters, these suicide notes that he left, including one to you. He's very warm in it. He says, "In time, you will see how appreciated you are." He even goes on to talk about grabbing a drink. Is that how the two of you talk to one another?
All the time, all the time. Aaron and I had a very good relationship. It grew past attorney-client. He was a big kid, a kidder, liked to joke around all the time, very intelligent at times.
Yes,
and
I
there
agree.
were moments where I look back and I can see that there were things that were just not right. His memory loss, the headaches that were consistent. This kid had a lot to deal with at a very young age.
He left letters to his family, to his daughter. He says, know that I'm always with you. He asks his fiance to, quote, tell my story fully to his family. He writes, not much time I'm being called, but these, Jose, are Aaron's very personal and private words, letters that he left to you and to his family. Some say this feels exploitative. Well, why would you do this?
These are the decisions that his family made. I didn't do this without even his consent. He and I talked about telling his story. Cheyenne, his fiance, who was really the only person that continued to support him throughout all of this time period, she felt it was important that people see the change in a person's behavior so people can really identify CTE and make it real. Without these letters, we wouldn't be talking about it. Without these letters, we wouldn't be discussing the potential CTE and the fact that we have children playing this game.
So you want people to get help from this, and there's been a lot of criticism. I read one quote that said, it all seems to be about as gross a money grab as you can imagine from Jose Baez. What is your response to that?
Look, I'm not making money off of this book. I have
Honest
taken the
lawyer.
proceeds and we're setting up a college fund for his daughter.
All the proceeds that you would normally receive will go to his daughter.
Correct. And I'm doing this for Abiel so that she can know there's a different side to the story of her father. He was someone who was loved, cared about, extremely misunderstood. And if some good can come from all of this, I think Aaron would be extremely happy.
Jose Baez, we really appreciate you taking the time. Unnecessary Roughness, it is available now, and we're going to be right back. Thank you.